What's up, everyone? I'm Tenian. Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be exploring Mad Max Fury Road, directed by George Miller. Instead of just focusing on the explosive car chases and action set pieces, as great as they are, I wanted to explore the role religion and spirituality played in the movie, especially through the lens of neopaganism, and explore how neopagan elements are blended with this post-apocalyptic dystopian landscape. And then I want to place those neo-pagan elements within the context of the gender dynamics at play, particularly in the conflict between two very distinct and different societies in the movie. On the one hand, you have the male-dominated cult of Immortal Joe, the central villain of the movie, and then you have the matriarchal society of the Vuvalini. And then I wanted to conclude the video with a discussion about how those elements of cult worship and spirituality become aligned with consumerism, consumption, and capitalism. And I thought an interesting way into that discussion would be to show the kind of fascinating similarities between this post-apocalyptic world of the Wasteland and the neo-pagan annual festival of the Burning Man in the Nevada desert. All right, so I want to begin by giving a short definition of neo-paganism, which was a movement that emerged in the 20th century in reaction to mainstream religions, centered around polytheism, nature worship, and the celebration of seasonal festivals. Central to this film's exploration of spirituality is the cult of Immortal Joe, a tyrannical leader who rules over his followers with an iron fist. Immortal Joe has fashioned himself as this tyrant god king. He resides in the Citadel. Immortal Joe's cult exhibits clear influences from the neo-pagan religion of Asatru, with its emphasis on warrior culture. Asatru is essentially the worship of ancient Viking and Scandinavian gods and goddesses. The imagery of war paint, totems, and ceremonial rituals really evokes these neo-pagan traditions, and for me just adds a lot of complexity and depth to the world building in the movie. Also, Immortal Joe's cult is very male-dominated, patriarchal. Women have no value, no status, and are just treated as these disposable commodities, and they serve one bleak, cynical purpose only: to reproduce children for Immortal Joe. And so it's a very bleak, hostile environment and world, and the Citadel itself is almost an emblem of this toxic warrior masculinity represented in the movie. The ugliness of this male-dominated world and society is reflected in the harsh, hostile landscape in this desolate post-apocalyptic world called the Wasteland, which has been devastated by pollution and radiation, and most of the population have been poisoned by radiation. There's very little water left, and the very little water that is left, Immortal Joe has monopolized and is exploiting to maintain his power and control over the masses, the oppressed masses who live outside of the Citadel, who he also treats as these disposable commodities. They're these nameless cogs in the machine that he just exploits for his own greedy and power mongering. In contrast, the Vuvalini is a matriarchal society led by women who value cooperation and wisdom. Their community offers a stark contrast to the oppressive patriarchy of Immortal Joe, and they give us a little glimpse into an alternative way of life within this very dystopian landscape. The Vuvalini's home, called the Green Place, stands also in stark opposition to Immortal Joe's Citadel, and was this once fertile valley that became polluted by the Wasteland. Side note, one of the Vuvalini is referred to as the Valkyrie, who of course also come from Norse mythology and were these female figures who guided the souls of the dead into Valhalla, and are often depicted as warrior women on horseback. And it's just another element of the movie that references these kind of neo-pagan worldviews. What's great about this movie is that there are these clashes between these patriarchal and matriarchal societies, but they're just not physical confrontations. They are also ideological struggles for power and autonomy. I see neopaganism as playing a significant role in shaping the gender dynamics here in the movie, and in many neopagan traditions, there is often a reverence for the divine feminine and a recognition of the sacredness of the earth, and we certainly see that reflected in the Vuvalini and their connection with the earth and their valuing of female leadership, autonomy, and independence. So I think this film very smartly juxtaposes Immortal Joe's male-dominated cult with the very empowering matriarchy of the Vuvalini in a way that really invites us to reflect on the ways in which gender roles and power structures really shape our society and our worldview and can have very devastating effects. I think these influences of countercultural movements like neopaganism upon the movie is also reflected in the movie's embrace of anarchism, which is especially personified by the Wasteland itself, which is this new frontier of chaos, anarchy, and lawlessness, which is attracting gangs and different tribes, all vying for supremacy. So there's this connection in the movie between its neo-pagan aesthetic and this freedom of anarchy, which for me also has interesting similarities and parallels with the ceremony of Burning Man, which is held annually in the Nevada desert. Just like the film's Wasteland setting, Burning Man serves as a space for alternative communities to thrive, free from the constraints of mainstream society. Just as Burning Man has evolved from its countercultural roots into a more commercialized event, so too does the world of Mad Max retain vestiges of late capitalist society. The film is rife with imagery and symbolism that critique the excesses of consumer culture and the military-industrial complex. The omnipresence of cars, big rigs, and weapons serve as a reminder of humanity's destructive tendencies, while the fight to monopolize resources underscores the inherent greed and selfishness of the capitalist system. I also see in the film a paradox between utilitarianism and wasteful excess, which is epitomized in Immortal Joe's extravagant pursuits, which stand in stark contrast to the struggles of the oppressed masses. This movie for me is more than just a post-apocalyptic film. It really defies easy categorization in the way it blends, like I said, neo-paganism, anarchism, and consumer culture in a way that, for me, really creates a thought-provoking exploration of the human condition. I am really looking forward to Furiosa, the prequel, and seeing how that movie continues the kind of rich world building that we see in Fury Road. So that wraps up the discussion. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're new to the channel, please take the time to like and subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video here.